Namaste. The last few live sessions had some problem, probably due to my settings. So I am starting now, around 10 minutes late. This is a short speech on an important topic called karma, as requested by one of my friends. It is an important topic for yoga students. So I will try to complete it in 20 minutes or maximum 30 minutes. If you have any questions, you can type them and I will answer them at the end. Let me make that note here. Let us first talk the origin of the terminology called karma and why karma is coming into the place. A human being is an intellectual animal, meaning a human being has a faculty of thinking about things happening around himself or herself. A human being never leaves anything alone. Whatever has happened, a human being will think about it, will try to analyze what's going on, and also wants to know what to do in future or in present about that thing. A human being is constantly in a search of happiness, Adhiyog 1.1. According to the Indian philosophy, a human being is constantly in a mode where it is trying to see whether all the sorrow from life can be removed. Sorrow means dissatisfaction, not necessarily a great pain. So the human being is trying to achieve a constant state of happiness, which is automatic because it never wants to experience pain or dissatisfaction. It's always trying to stay in satisfaction, but the experience is that it never stays in total satisfaction on an average level. So this creates a curiosity about why this is happening and what can be done. There is another way to look at the same matter, that there are things happening around us and we have no explanation for those things. So now a human being wants to know the explanation. At least wants to know explanation, if not remove the entire problem in the situation. So this and associated thoughts in the human mind lead to a concept called karma. In this concept, the logic is that everything a human being is experiencing is due to certain things that have happened before. The things which a particular human being is experiencing are happening due to that particular human being have done something in the past. There are some things which seemingly a human being is experiencing due to others doing things. However, the logic is that those other things also are a result of previous actions of that particular human being. So basically, the assumption is that a human being has done something or is doing something, and that is giving the results, and these results ultimately lead to incomplete or total dissatisfaction. Thus, a human being needs to do something about actions which are not done yet, so that either previous results can be obliterated or future results will not result in dissatisfaction. So this is the reason why the concept of karma has come. Now let me explain to you what is the etymology of the word karma. Karma is a Sanskrit word and it comes from the verb kru, and kru means to act or to do. Now everybody is always doing something. It is impossible not to do anything. Even when a person is sleeping, a person may be dreaming. Minimum a person's biological activities are continued. To maintain these biological activities, a person is doing something. And obviously, a person in the live state is doing things for obtaining happiness. In the case of animals, they are doing things instinctively, but they are not thinking about those things, and therefore their actions are not considered under the logic of karma. We are only concerned here with human actions. Anyway, kru means to act or to do, and karma means action. Now, why this karma is so important for human life? When a human does any action, there is always a desire for happiness, and happiness is tied to some particular result which is expected by a human being. So this result is unknown at the present time of action. The result comes after the action is complete, or part of that action is complete, and the result is not known while the action is going on or before the action starts. Only the expectation of result is known. So what happens is that a human being does some action, that action brings some result. If the result is totally dissatisfactory, a human becomes totally dissatisfied. Most of the time, the result is partially satisfactory, so the human being is partially satisfied. And many times, the result is totally dissatisfactory, so the human being is dissatisfied totally. Thus, after the result of the action comes, a human being never sits idle. It may try to perform the action, either the same action or modified action or totally different action, in order to obtain the complete satisfaction. If the human being was totally satisfied, it will find very soon that the total satisfaction is not sustained. So it will try to perform another action and then go into the same state of matters. Sometimes a human being is totally dissatisfied and does not want to perform any action. This is called depression, but at the same time, the human being is still expecting to get satisfaction. So there is a struggle between wanted satisfaction and performance of no action. This creates a state of mind called depression. So it looks like person is not performing, but the person is still performing an action of wanting satisfaction but suffering dissatisfaction. So, in karma, there are certain elements. One element is performing an action. Second element is expecting some result from that action. Third element is reacting to the actual result which comes after action is complete. And fourth is deciding what action to be done after the result. And there is one more element, is the result itself, which is coming due to all the previous actions. In the yoga philosophy, a person has body, mind and spirit. Spirit is immortal and not changing. Body and mind are completely changing all the time. And mainly mind is important. Body is only a supporting organ for satisfying the mind. Mind is mostly made up of faculties of decision, including memory, etc., and also the past satisfactions, dissatisfactions, and desires. What is a total called karma? So, karma means a sum total of all the desires, satisfactions and dissatisfactions, and this is called karma ashaya. When a person is born, it is born with previous karma ashaya, and only part of that is used in a particular birth. This is called as prarabdha karma or fate in English. When the person is performing actions in a given birth with whatever expectations, that is called as kriyamana karma or current actions. And after the action is complete, some result takes place, and that result decides what is going to happen in future. That is added to the entire storage of karma, is called karmashaya or sanchita karma, or also called as fruits of action, karma phala. Sometimes karma phala is referred to only present action. Anyway, now this karma, what I explained, is obviously seeming to be extremely difficult to understand or confusing. So there is no wonder about that. The best place to understand karma is Bhagavad Gita. However, to understand Bhagavad Gita itself is a very difficult karma. So let me explain to you where in Bhagavad Gita you will get good understanding of that karma. I will now try to explain to you that portion in very short time. You should go to chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita, verse number 16. It says, Kim karma kim karmedi kavyopyatra mohitaha tatte karma pravakshami yajñatva mokshase shubhat. So it means that even extremely learned people, those who are intelligent and learned, they are also confused about karma and akarma, that means doing actions and not doing actions. Therefore, I will explain to you what karma means. And if you understand karma very well, you will be saved from many unwanted things or undesired desirable things. 4.17, when he says you should understand the karma very well, in 4.17 he says there are three types of things. One is what is recommended action, second is what is wrong action, and third is inaction. And these three are difficult to understand, and that is why the confusion takes place. So there is something called karma, which is action, but what action should be performed? Because without action you cannot live. So that is called just karma. The karma which should not be performed is called vikarma, and when you don't perform action and try to avoid the action, that is called akarma. Now in 4.18 he is saying who is the correct person. This verse is extremely difficult to understand because he says in the inaction you have to see that there is actually action, and in the action there should be no action. So this I will skip now and explain to you later. Okay. Now we will go to the explanation of the karma using these verses, and there is another place in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 3 and 2 where karma is indicated. So first let me now summarize the understanding of what needs to be done and what needs to be understood. Firstly, it is impossible not to perform action because automatically the person will perform action. Even when person is trying to avoid action, some action will be performed in mentally or even physically. After the action is over, some result will definitely take place. That result will trigger further actions and satisfaction or dissatisfaction, either incomplete or complete. And this cycle will continue. So there is something which needs to be understood, which is called knowledge. And according to the philosophy, when that knowledge comes, a person will perform actions in certain way. That certain way is when they perform actions, they should see inaction in them. That means that they should perform the actions without any ego. That means they should perform the actions without their ego being attached to it. Then such actions will not result in dissatisfaction. They should also understand that if they try to avoid the action, they will actually be not able to avoid the action, because their previous karmashaya or previous accumulation will force them to perform some action. Even if they tie their body and limbs, their mind will go on thinking about action, and that action ultimately will take place. So they should not do inaction. So in the action they should see inaction. That means they should perform the action without any ego, so that they don't create any future karmashaya and they are not affected by the result. And as far as their current actions are concerned, or the actions which are coming due to their previous karma, they should perform those actions. Otherwise, they will be forced to create those actions mentally and they cannot avoid the karma at all. This entire thing is summarized in one particular verse in Bhagavad Gita, which is extremely important and probably the most important as far as karma is concerned. That verse is Karmanye vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetubhu ma te sangostu akarmani. That means Karmanye vadhikaraste. That means the persons has jurisdiction only to perform the action. Ma phaleshu kadachana. The person has no jurisdiction over the result of that action. What will happen? Karmanye vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetubhu means do not get attached to the fruits of that action while doing the action. That means do not bring your ego into that action in such a way that you will create some imagination what will happen with the results. Just perform the action for what you want to happen as far as your good result is expected. That means you will expect a result, but you will not attach yourself to that result in terms of satisfaction and dissatisfaction. Ma karma phala hetubhu ma te sangosu akarmani. That means do not try to avoid the action or do not try to stay without action. I hope this portion is understood. If you write questions, I will answer them. Now we go to the next thing. There is a place in Bhagavad Gita, he says that once you understand the entire karma and you also exhaust previous karma, then you will not need to perform any actions, because you will go beyond the karma field and you will become liberated while living. That means you will not have to do any particular duties. However, recommended thing is to perform action for the good of others with correct karma theory. Why this should be done? Because he says that other common people try to behave as the leaders or knowledgeable people behave. So the common people are going to take example from higher people and they should perform the actions properly so that the common people get a good lesson. This is called as sangraha, loka sangraha, means performing action for the good of the community. So this way, even the monks are supposed to create actions. So this is the main portion of the karma theory and practice. Now what is happening in the classical yoga philosophy? In classical yoga philosophy, they are performing meditation. And classical yoga philosophy is tied to Sankhya philosophy, where they are trying to disconnect self from material world. That means getting liberated from the material world of the soul. In this also, what they are saying is, when you perform the yoga practice of meditation, you will realize the self. After realizing self, you will come to know that rest of the thing is all material world changing and it will never lead to complete satisfaction. So you will be focused on the self. However, once you realize the self, you will come to know all your past karma and you have to resolve that karma, past karma. Then only you can get liberated. That means even for classical yoga student, karma cannot be avoided. Similarly, Hatha Yoga, where a person raises Kundalini to go into Samadhi state. After that Samadhi state, or even during the Hatha Yoga practice, past karma and karma results cannot be avoided. That is why all the Hatha Yogis ultimately succumb to their own karma. There is only one refuge for a yoga student. This is indicated in Patanjali Sutras, but not correctly. This is explained in my Ishvara Pranidhan Sutras, and that is called as Ishvara Pranidhan. That means total surrender to the will of Ishvara, or in simple English, God. If you are able to surrender totally to the God, you can avoid not karma, not the results of karma, but the dissatisfaction coming from karma. That means you will be able to avoid attachment to the karma results if you are able to devote yourself or surrender yourself to Ishvara. So, therefore, surrender to Ishvara or Ishvara Pranidhan is the only way out of karma complications. Any other method will not result in satisfactory conclusion, because any other method, including classical yoga, hatha yoga, or knowledge yoga, all these are tied to person's ego, and they will ultimately create karmashay. That is why the concluding verse of Bhagavad Gita says, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. That means leave aside all the dharmas. Dharmas means all duties or all religions or all rules, etc., and surrender only to me. I will take care of you. This does not mean that do not do actions or do not be religious or do not have any yoga practice or etc. What he is saying is, do all those things what you need to do due to your past actions or due to your current logic or what you want to achieve. However, you surrender yourself mentally to me, and I will take care of you at the end. So, this is the last thing which I wanted to tell today. The karma theory is a spiritual phenomena. It is not to be taken into in political or social structure in such a way that one can comment on each other. The karma theory is meant for spiritual advancement and has nothing to do with social rivalry or social work, etc. One may perform social work as spiritual work, or one may perform political work as devotion to God, but it is ultimately meant for spiritual upliftment of an individual, and it is not a social phenomena. So I will now conclude by chanting two of the verses from Bhagavad Gita. कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भूः मा ते संगोऽस्त्वकर्मणि सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः. ओम शांति शांति शांति. Thank you for watching. If any questions, write in comments and I will answer.